So, how do you go about drafting an intent bill? In the California Legislature, an intent bill is basically used as a placeholder for a future measure to be amended into that intent bill. Now, quite often, bills introduced in the California Legislature without substantive language, about a third of them by introduction day, are called spot bills. However, it's not always the case that both spot and intent bills act as placeholders, but there are some other ones. Certainly, an intent bill is one of the most common. And an intent bill provides a statement of intent by the legislature, and the Office of Legislative Counsel includes in the Legislative Counsel's digest a statement that provides this bill would state the intent of the legislature to do, and then it specifies what it would do. These intent statements are general in nature, but sometimes they can be pretty narrow in their descriptions. So some intent bills allow broad leeway to the bill's author about what might later be amended into the bill. For example, you might see a bill that provides a very broad statement, such as it is the intent of the legislature to enact a bill relating to transportation. Obviously, a very broad intent statement. In other instances, a narrow statement will clearly provide what the bill will ultimately do when the substantive amendments are placed into that bill. For example, I saw one in prior years that said, it is the intent of the legislature to conform state tax law to federal tax law modifications made to the research and development tax credit enacted by the 2019 Federal Tax Act. So clearly, this is an example of a narrow intent bill, and clearly you'll know what the ultimate bill language will provide. A couple other examples, recent intent bills during the 2022 California legislative session includes the following from the Leg Council Digest. It says that AB 1141 has introduced Wildfires, Wildland Urban Interface Fire Research Center. Existing law establishes various programs for the prevention, detection, and mitigation of wildfires. And then the bill expressed the intent of the legislature to enact subsequent legislation that would develop and fund a Wildland Urban Interface Fire Research Center that specifically addresses the wildland urban interface fire problem and needs of wildfire prevention, detection, and mitigation planning, building and response, and related economic insurance and modeling practices in this state. That's a mouthful. Like a spot bill counterpart, the existing law section of the Legislative Council's digest provides a broad statement. Thereafter, either a broad or narrow legislative intent statement is provided in the bill under the "This Bill Would" section of the digest. So an intent bill, again, is the other form of a placeholder bill in California, but it is not a spot bill. A spot bill makes a non-substantive or a technical change in an existing statute. So an intent bill makes a statement of legislative intent. A spot bill makes a technical non-substantive change to an existing statute. So an intent bill is relatively straightforward for drafting purposes because it's usually one, maybe two sentences that say it is the intent of the legislature to do X, and again, can be broadly written or narrowly written.